Free market activity be cursed. The central of an automatic market is plainly excessively profane for the thin universe of great Aston Martins. The all-new, all-old continuation DB4 GT, a processing plant-manufactured copy of the first, figures out how to goose Adam Smith by turning the since quite a while ago settled monetary hypothesis on its head. The entry of 25 more DB4 GT speaks to a considerable increment in the aggregate supply. Just 75 were created the first run-through around in the vicinity of 1959 and 1963. However, as opposed to discouraging the estimations of the current autos, not to what might as well be called $2 million that Aston Martin Works is charging for the continuation autos, it has really supported estimations of the firsts. Since Aston reported plans to assemble this auto in late 2016, you'd have expected to discover at any rate $2.5 million for a half-average GT and much more for one of the ultra-uncommon lightweights that the continuation show is designed after. A 1959 case, the principal manufactured, sold last August at a Pebble Beach sell-off for $6.77 million. The GT isn't a reclamation or one of those endeavors at an improved Restomod. Each part is new, including casing, motor, and gearbox. Concessions have been made to security, equal to those a unique DB4 would need to contend in vintage hustling. The model we drove had a cutting-edge move confine, hustling-grade basin seats, and 6-point saddles, in addition to a fire quencher and a battery cut-off framework. Everything else is as the first, with the autos hand-worked by Aston Martin's in-house rebuilding division, Aston Martin Works, actualizing similar systems utilized for the firsts, including hand-beaten aluminum bodywork. A few sections have even been made by similar providers, the greater part a century on, including the Bahraini wire wheels. Paul Spires, Aston Martin Works overseeing executive, figures around 4,500 hours of work go into gathering and painting every auto. Not that enhancements haven't been made. The new autos are worked to all the more demanding guidelines, in the wake of checking of a few unique illustrations demonstrated that they were all generously not the same as each other. The Works designs additionally understood that the most punctual autos had all been worked with a marginally crimped undercarriage, potentially on the grounds that they were delivered at one of David Brown's tractor plants, and this has been adjusted as opposed to repeated. These new autos are worked at the Aston Martin Works office in Newport Pagnell, England, making them the main new autos collected there since 2007. Board holes and shut lines are gathered to more tightly resiliences, and the paint complete is to a far higher standard than you'd find on any auto in 1959. The continuation has likewise been required to finish the same serious sturdiness tests as Aston's present Perseverance race autos, including a 2,500-mile drive finished at Italy's Nardo track the previous summer. The model that we drove conveys British tags and is road lawful in the United Kingdom, however the other 24 are planned to be limited to track utilize as it were. Purchasers will have the capacity to enter them into certain memorable dashing arrangement, and Aston Martin is putting forth its own 2-year track driving project that will incorporate master guideline. This, we soon find, is probably going to be important for anybody needing to capitalize on as far as possible on a track. Our drive occurred at England's Silverstone circuit toward the beginning of January on a soggy, oily surface that hadn't been utilized since before the Christmas break. It was a situation that immediately conveyed a salutatory lesson in exactly how little grasp forefront 1950s race autos had, with the continuation's thin period designed Dunlop tires attempting to discover Bond. The fight was surely interesting, however there's just so much fun you can have in another person's hand-fabricated 7-figure sports auto. This model has just been sold to a US purchaser who is suspecting conveyance 1 month from now with no additional patina. The continuation has a 4.2-liter inline-6 motor, somewhat greater than the first's 3.7-liter unit yet breathed through a similar trio of carburetors, 2-barrel, side draft Webers. It is tractable by the principles of profoundly tuned carb-sustained motors, however is obviously intended to convey its best at high revs. Indeed, even on the straights of the Silverstone National Circuit, the back tires began to squirm in descent as the motor surrounded its 6,000 revolution per minute control top. We may have encountered the full 331 drive, However, in the event that so just quickly, the GT feels much more restless and energizing than any cutting-edge auto with a comparative yield. The 4-speed manual gearbox requires acclimatization. It utilizes canine rings rather than synchromesh, implying that motor and street speeds must be coordinated for smooth movements, and downshifts require twofold gripping, an ability we don't get the opportunity to rehearse frequently enough. Luckily, the firm brake pedal conveys both strong impediment, when contrasted with the squirrely conduct under power, and a strong stage for foot sole area and toe downshifts. Before the finish of our concise spell on the auto, we were beginning to get the talent. In any case, cornering required a more radical modification and method because of the self-destroying unobtrusiveness of the GT's parallel hold. Transforming into the tight right-hander at Beckett's at what felt like an exceptionally careful pace, we found the front of the auto breaking into awkward understeer. Abating additionally brought it once again into line, yet then even a delicate throttle application sent the back wheels sliding wide. Little ponder that such a large number of the photos of autos hustling in this time demonstrate them in four-wheel floats. Be that as it may, the GT's low braking points, and the need to ace the aptitudes required to benefit as much as possible from them, are a major piece of its allure. It's a delicate mammoth that should be driven with mind. The greater part of the controls are equipped for the essential artfulness, however you should acknowledge the requirement for outrageous regard. It is by all accounts fastest at the very cusp of energy oversteer, with the power lock constrained slip differential helping the back pivots to give directional guidelines. We surely didn't ace it amid our short time at Silverstone, yet we can see the interest of spending numerous hours on dangerous surfaces to take in more. Paul Spires surrenders that the choice to create 25 of these continuation GTs was a strong one. Jaguar made only 7 of its carried-on lightweight E-types and approached less cash for each of them. The number was picked as the adjust of the 100 DB4 GTs that Aston should have worked to legitimize the auto's unique dashing profession. Zagato bodied another 19 DB4 GTs, and furthermore to give a reasonable spending plan to permit both appropriate advancement and for Aston to take some benefit from the venture. Thusly, the organization has plainly made a hunger for more work in a comparable vein. Each of the 25 of these continuation autos were represented long back. Having assembled such a remarkable group, and made such an uncommon auto, it would be a disgrace on the off chance that they weren't permitted to accomplish something different, Spires says. Post your proposals in the remarks. The completed outcome is an auto that feels nearer to being a clone as opposed to a unique, and we've almost certainly that the estimations of the early DB4 GTs will keep on being unsullied by the presence of what is, as a result, a not idealized tribute act. Yet, what a tribute!